Good morning, students, and welcome back. We have just completed module 4. We had finished the problems on bell drives. Okay, so that completes module 4, and now we will come to the next module and the last module, actually, that is module 1. Okay, module 1. This, as per the syllabus, if you see, this is the first module, but then we thought we will do it in the end. Okay, so we are just starting off with the final module now, which is actually module 1. Okay, so what do we have in the syllabus of this particular module? Okay, so this is basically into has three types. The first one is called sources of energy. This is very, very basic, students. You have already learnt all these things in your schools itself, right? So what are the different sources of energy? What do you mean by energy? Applications of energy sources, and which are the different types of energy sources, that is non-conventional energy sources and conventional energy sources, like fossil fuels, hydel energy, solar energy, wind energy, nuclear fuels, biofuels, right? So all these things is what you're going to study in this chapter. It's very, very basic, and one of them will generally be asked in the examination. Every particular energy system will have a sketch to be drawn, that is, you know, if it's hydraulic energy or solar energy or wind energy or nuclear energy or biofuel. So it will have a sketches, and you need to explain how the energy is being formed. Okay, so apart from that, in the energy itself, we have some other two topics which are again very general, and you are supposed to know these things also. One is environmental issues related to global warming, and the other one is related to ozone depletion. Okay, so these things you are supposed to know: what is global warming, what is causing it, and how can we reduce it. And same way in the case of what do you mean by ozone, why ozone is being depleted, what are the effects of that because of depletion of ozone layer, and how can we prevent this. So these are the things that will come in the first part of that. Now the second part what we have is the concepts of thermodynamics. Okay, so this is something where you have to have a little bit of knowledge on what do you mean by thermodynamics. Okay, what do you mean by work, what do you mean by heat, what do you mean by temperature. Okay, there are certain terms which relates what is heat, what is work, and what is state of a system, and what do you mean by temperature. Okay, so this is something that you need to know, and then you have to study the different laws of thermodynamics. You definitely don't have to know the applications of these laws. That will be that is for a separate chapter. You don't have to bother it now. Okay, so there are different laws. That is zeroth law of thermodynamics, first law of thermodynamics, second law of thermodynamics, and third law of thermodynamics. Okay, and also you have to study the concepts of internal energy, enthalpy, and entropy, and numerical problems related to these. So that's the second part. And then in the last part we have something called as steam. Okay, in module 2 when we started, we have studied about boilers. Okay, we have studied what is a boiler, what is a function of a boiler, different types of boilers. Okay, now the purpose of boiler is to produce a steam, right? We only studied till there. Here in this case you have to study how steam is actually formed. We are not studying about what is happening inside the boiler. We are studying the process of steam formation, how steam is formed from water. What happens when the temperature, when we start heating the water, what state it will reach, and then if you continue heating, what happens to its pressure, its temperature, and so on. Okay, that is what you mean by formation of steam. And also you will have to study the thermodynamic properties of steam. What are the different types of properties? What do you mean by enthalpy of steam, and what do you mean by superheated temperature, what do you mean by saturation temperature, what do you mean by different stages of steam. Okay, and also you will have to find the enthalpy of steams at different levels. Some numerical problems will be there and associated with these things. So these are the things what you are going to study in this particular module. Okay, so first one, the first part is actually very easy, so I will go a little casually here. I don't think there is much of explanation that is needed in these cases. Most of the things I will assume that you definitely know. Different forms of energy, what do you mean by conventional energy, what do you mean by non-conventional energy, and all those things. Okay, so again, energy, as you know, it's capacity to do work. So most of the energy that we use is mainly derived from conventional energy sources. Okay, so I hope and expect that you know what you mean by conventional energy. So there are two types, isn't it? One is conventional energy, another one is non-conventional energy, right? So conventional energy means the energy sources on which we are extensively dependent upon these things like fossil fuels, right, coal, etc., which are definitely going to be exhausted at some point of time. Okay, those things are called as conventional energy. And non-conventional energy means the alternate sources, that is, which are not going to be extinct. For example, solar energy, wind energy, hydro energy, etc. Okay, this is the difference. So you have to very clearly understand the difference between conventional energy and non-conventional energy. Most of the time what happens is students will know that solar energy, wind energy, and hydro energy and other forms of energy are falling into one category, and fossil fuels like petroleum products, etc., coal, all these things will form on the other category. But most of the time they fail to remember the names. They always get mixed up with the names. They don't know what is conventional, what is non-conventional. That is a problem. Because why I'm saying this is because I have seen this in the previous question paper also. In the first question itself, they had asked to list out the difference between conventional energy and non-conventional energy. And most of the time students, what they write is for conventional they write non-conventional, for non-conventional they write conventional. Both the points what they write is absolutely valid, absolutely right, but they are interchanging the headings itself. In writing conventional energy and writing the points for non-conventional, writing heading as non-conventional and writing the points for conventional. So they cannot expect any marks in such case because they don't know the name itself, what is conventional and what is non-conventional. So please be very sure on what is conventional and what is non-conventional. Okay, and there are other names for this also. That is why probably it is confusing. Now, conventional sources of energy are also called as non-renewable source of energy because they cannot be renewed. Conventional means they will get over, so it's not possible to renew it. So it's called as non-renewable source of energy. And in the same way, non-conventional source of energy are called renewable source of energy because they can be renewed. So non-conventional is renewable, conventional is non-renewable. Okay, they are the other names of that. Okay, so let's just come into this point now. So due to the vast demand in energy, the rate of depletion of these resources have reached very low levels. I'm sure all of us are aware of these things. There is nothing much to be explained. The fossil fuels are being very they've been used at such a certain level, saying that they are almost going to be exhausted. We know that every automobile runs on fossil fuels, and machineries and other equipments, most of them they consume fossil fuels as source of energy. For everything we are dependent on oil, petrol and diesel and other things that is coming out of the crude oil, right? So we are almost at the stage where it is going to be depleted, so we have to find alternate source of energy now. Okay, so that's what I said. The situation has directed us to seek alternate energy sources such as solar, wind, ocean, biomass, hydel, etc. Alright, so we all know that we have to go for some other source of energy. There are but at one case we are having shortage of these things. On the second side, if you see, they are also having a lot of pollution. It's causing a lot of pollution. So in either way, we will have to find a cleaner energy as well as a renewable source of energy. Okay. Okay, so I have already told about these things. Conventional energy sources, examples for that is coal, natural gas, petrol, etc. So basically conventional energy sources are the one which are going to be exhausted, which are going to be depleted. Next one is non-conventional sources of energy. Examples: solar energy, wind energy, biomass, tidal, fuel cells, etc. Okay, you can add some more into that: hydel energy, etc. But please make sure you get the clear difference between the two. Conventional energy sources means the one which are going to be exhausted. They will be exhausted at some point of time. Non-conventional energy sources are the one which can be renewed again and again. That means solar energy can be used, wind energy can always be used, biomass, tidal energy, etc. Of course, they have their own advantages as well as limitations. We know why we are not able to use these energy sources, because there are a lot of limitations or shortcomings of these non-conventional energy sources also. Because solar energy, you cannot say it's going to be available throughout. It's not available 24/7, right? Wind energy, again, problem is that we cannot expect the wind speed to be constant all the time. There will be variation in that. So the production power will have, the power that is produced can also be can also vary, right? So there are some problems associated with that, and we don't have very well equipments which can very easily convert the energy into power. So the cost of production also will increase. So all those things are there with respect to non-conventional sources of energy. Okay, there's a difference between forms of energy and sources of energy. So different forms of energy, you know, one is chemical energy, nuclear energy, electrical energy, heat energy, sound energy, potential energy, and different forms again. These are the forms of energy. Next is sources of energy. There are different terms actually. Source means from where we are getting that. Forms means in what forms they are available, right? So nuclear energy is a form of energy, heat energy is a form of energy, light is a form of energy, sound is a form of energy, right? But what are the sources of that? So for light energy, the source is sun, solar, right? Even for heat, we can say solar is the energy. Similarly, to get electrical energy or chemical energy, the source will be fossil fuels. So difference between forms of energy and sources of energy. So chemical energy, nuclear energy, electrical energy, heat energy, sound energy, and so many other things you can add. On the right hand side, what you have is called as sources of energy. So sources from where it is available, like fossil fuels is a source, river is a source, solar energy, wind energy, tidal energy, geothermal energy, biomass energy, all these are sources of energy. Okay, so this is what I was actually talking about, classification of energy sources. So energy sources are classified into two categories: renewable energy sources and non-renewable energy sources. So I have told this already, but I'm just repeating it. What do you mean by renewable source? Renewable source means which can be renewed. So non-conventional energy sources are renewable. Non-renewable means which cannot be renewed. That means they will be exhausted. That means they are conventional source of energy. Okay, so please do not get confused with these words. There are two different names for that. Renewable energy sources are non-conventional energy sources. Non-renewable energy sources are conventional energy sources. Okay, just remember that they're opposite. Non-conventional is renewable, non-renewable is conventional. Don't get confused. They're opposite words, right? Conventional, non-renewable, and renewable is non-conventional. Okay, so renewable sources of energy. So what do you mean by renewable sources of energy? The energy sources which are continuously produced in nature and will not get exhausted eventually in future are called as renewable sources of energy. Okay, I hope it's clear. You can if in case if it is asked, you can write this as one of the point for renewable source of energy. The definition: the energy sources which are continuously produced in nature and will not get exhausted eventually in the future is called as renewable sources of energy. So you can give some examples for that. So you have solar energy, biomass, wind energy, geothermal energy, and water hydro energy. So different forms of energy. Next one, non-renewable source of energy, or in other words, we can also call that as conventional source of energy. So as the definition goes, energy sources which have been accumulated over the ages and quickly they are exhausted. So they will be exhausted once we finished, once we completely extract them from the earth's surface. So fossil fuels, nuclear fuels, etc., coal, petroleum, all these are non-renewable sources of energy. Okay, so main thing is fossil fuels and coal. Okay, so some of the differences between renewable sources of energy and non-renewable sources of energy. Renewable sources are non-exhaustible, so they will not get over. They will be continuously produced in nature over time, again and again. They are freely available. Of course, the energy is freely available, but the conversion of that energy into another form becomes a little difficult. Maintenance cost is less. They are free from pollution. Absolutely, they are very clean energy. All the all the renewable sources of energy are absolutely free of pollution, and the transmission cost is less. Okay, transmission cost in the sense transferring the power from one point to another. So non-renewable sources of energy are exhaustible and they are not freely available. Not freely available in the sense it's available in the earth, but it is not so easy to take the energy. It's not directly available on the surface, right? So you usually know that we have to have oil rigs to remove these oils. Maintenance cost will be more. It is not free from pollution. Definitely there is a lot of problems happening with the case of fossil fuels. There is a lot of carbon and nitrogen emissions that are coming out from that, and transmission cost is also more. Okay. Now fuel. What do you mean by a fuel? How do you define the word fuel? So it is a substance that produces energy when it is burnt. That is called as a fuel. So what is a fuel? Fuel is a substance, when you burn it, it gives you energy. Example: wood, petrol, diesel, natural gas, etc. So generally, whenever we ignite or burn a particular substance, and if it produces energy basically in the form of heat and light, then we call that as a fuel. Okay, then classification. What are the different types of fuels? There are three important classifications of fuels. First one is called as solid fuel, second one is called liquid fuel, and third one is called gaseous fuel. And I'm very sure all of you can give some examples, even though it's written here. Even these things were not written, I'm sure you all know to give an example for solid fuel, liquid fuel, and gaseous fuel which are using it, right? So solid fuels example are wood, coal, charcoal, etc. Liquid fuels get petrol, diesel, kerosene, etc. Gaseous fuels, liquefied petroleum gas, biogas, hydrogen, etc. Right. So these are the most common fuels that we use. Okay, so we'll just go into the first one, that is solid fuels. So what do you mean by solid fuel? That is again depending on their physical existence. If they're available as solids, they're called solids fuel. They're in the form of liquid, it is liquid fuel. If it is in gas, they're called gaseous fuel. So what are the different types of solid fuels we have? First one is wood. So it is the oldest type, used in large quantities and it costs less. Used as domestic fuels for cooking and heating, etc. Right. So you know that before the LPG has become very common, it was firewood. It's called firewood only, right? The wood has become very much was used as a domestic fuel for all cooking purpose and heating of water. Wood was used. Even now it is used, but I think definitely now the consumption rate is very less for this purpose because of the LPG what we are using now. In most of the cases the LPGs are being used, but even this is still used whenever we need it for a larger quantity. Okay, so it is not used for commercial application due to high moisture content and low calorific value. There is one more thing here. It cannot be used for commercial application due to high moisture content and low calorific value. Now what do you mean by this moisture content? I hope you understand. If the moisture is more, then the efficiency of that will be very less, right? So wood or any metal has to be very much dry, then only their efficiency will increase. If there is moisture content present in them, then the efficiency would be less. And what do you mean by low calorific value? Calorific value means the amount of energy a fuel produces, or when you burn a unit quantity of any fuel, what is the amount of energy it produces? That is called as calorific value. So this calorific value of wood is very much less. That means there is more wastage. So that's why we are not able to use it as a commercial fuel, and it's mostly used as a domestic fuel. Okay. Now coming to coal. So coal is one of the most extensively used fuel. Okay, even today. All right. So at one point of time, coal was the only fuel that was used for almost everything, including running of steam engine, for ships, even the railways, and also for production of power. We use only coal. And now it has been replaced by, most of the things are being replaced by diesel, isn't it? The trains are running on diesel, now they are running in electricity. That is the next stage of improvisation. So first it was always coal that was used, then diesel, and now electrified. Same in the other cases also. Now diesel has been started replacing, engines have started replacing, but otherwise it was coal that was used. So coal is the most extensively used solid fuel in the present day. It is produced by the decay of plant materials for millions of years and compacted under pressure and temperature below the surface of the earth. Okay, so how coal is formed? This is also most you would know this, right? So how coal is formed? So usually it's the decay of the vegetarian source, plant source, and which are buried under the earth's surface due to various reasons, and they have been pressurized under that, and they have been kept under pressure and temperature below the surface of the earth, due to which they form as coal. Okay, so now there is different varieties of coal, or different forms of coal which are being used. Okay, so that again depends upon how much duration it was under, and at what pressure and what temperature it was under the earth's surface. Okay, so the main constituents of coal are carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and sulfur. Okay, so you can see the sketch below here, right? You have the sketch. So this is the surface, you can say. So when you have all the plant materials under that, and you can see if the more pressure is applied, and if you apply further more heat and pressure on that, they form different colors. So their different color represents different varieties or different forms of coal. So we will have to see what happens when what are the different varieties and what are its calorific value and which is the better one. Okay, so various forms of coal, this is what I was talking about. So what do you mean by different forms here? See, it depends upon the depth under which it is there and under what amount of pressure is being acted on that and at what temperature it is being maintained. So based on this, we have various forms of coal. The first one is called as peat, second one is called as lignite, third one is called as bituminous, then it is called as anthracite. Okay, so this is the main thing. Other than that, we have is briquetted coal and pulverized coal, that is secondary source. So what is available naturally is usually peat, then lignite, then bituminous, and then anthracite. So the sketch, if you refer here, so you can see this. If I consider above this as a surface, so you have till here what is called as peat, then you have lignite, then you get bituminous, and finally dark gray or blackish in color what you have is anthracite. Okay, so let's see what you mean by peat. It is also a naturally available solid fuel which is mainly formed by partly decomposed plants, minerals and wood below the ground. Okay, so peat is the one which is usually formed on the directly on the surface of the earth or just below that. So it contains 90% of moisture, 50% of volatile matter, 650 kilocalories per kg of calorific value and 5% of ash content. Okay, second one is lignite. So you can see the change in color here. It is slightly brownish. Okay, so lignite, they often have a clay or a brown color, clay like appearance, and they are associated with the moisture content up to 60%, ash content of 3.5 to 7%, 5000 kilocalories per kg of calorific value and 45% of volatile matter. So you can see as we go to the next level, the moisture content goes on decreasing. So you can see peat had the maximum moisture content, 90%. When coming to lignite, it is around 60%. So lesser the moisture content, more will be the value of the fuel. It will have more calorific value and better efficiency. They are usually amorphous in character and they break usually during transport. Okay, so they are used in generation of electricity. So that is application of lignite. They generally form amorphous powder form, and they generally have no much strength. They break easily and they are used for generation of electricity. Third one is bituminous. So these coals are denser and harder than lignite and have a higher calorific value, and they are very easy to handle. It is used in industrial application for firing of furnace thermal power plants. So it contains 75 to 90% of carbon, 20 to 45% of volatile matter. So as you can see, this form of coal, so you can see in this case they are still darker in color. It was lignite was brown, and this is even denser and darker than lignite. So calorific value is high. The percentage of carbon is also increasing. So there are two things that we need to note here. In the first, the carbon percentage goes on increasing and the moisture content goes on decreasing. So more the carbon percentage, better will be the fuel. Less the moisture content, better will be the fuel. So you can see peat stands on the lower level actually. So they have more moisture content and less carbon content than lignite. So it will have slightly higher carbon content and lesser moisture. Bituminous, next stage, it has still lesser moisture content and higher carbon content. And last one is anthracite. So anthracite is the highest grade in coal. Okay, this is the top grade of coal that is available, anthracite. So this is the most mature and very hard form of solid fuel and has a shining black color. Okay, so you can see the sketch here, right? So the sketch itself, it says it's completely black and has a very shiny look on that. So it has a very vast application in boilers, in metallurgical furnaces, etc. So you can see the amount of carbon content present in that. It has around 92 to 98% of the carbon content, and it burns slowly with great heat and less smoke. So the calorific value is also very high, and moisture content is very less. Only 10% of moisture is there, and 90% of the carbon, 92 to 98% of carbon content is. So this grade of coal, anthracite, will be of very high quality. Okay, bituminous will be of second quality, lignite is third, and peat is, of course, it's on the very lower side. Okay, so as I told you, the briquetted coal, it is a kind of artificial fuel which is produced from the coarse powder of coal by means of a binder or by applying high pressure. So as I told you, so it's not a naturally occurring form. We have only 4 naturally occurring, that is peat, lignite, bituminous, and anthracite. So what we have here is briquetted coal and pulverized coal are not naturally occurring, they are artificially made. So how it is made? So it is produced from the coarse powder of coal by means of a binder and by applying pressure. Next one is pulverized coal. Pulverized means powdered. So it's a low grade coal with high ash content is produced to fine and uniform sizes, which is called as pulverized coal. The coal in powder form can be carried for pneumatic feeder, and it burns quickly as it enters the burner. Okay, so it is made, whatever coal that is available, so it has been crushed and made into powder form, and that's why it's called as pulverized coal. And then they are used in pneumatic feeders, and it can burn very quickly inside the burner. Okay, so this is what I want you people to observe here. So you have peat, lignite, bituminous, and anthracite. So if you could see here, from peat to anthracite, if you go, these are the things that you need to actually know. One, moisture content goes on reducing as it goes from peat to anthracite. So peat will have maximum moisture, lignite will have slightly lesser, bituminous will still lesser, and anthracite will have no moisture at all or very less moisture content. That is one thing you need to note. Moisture content will go on reducing. Okay, so second thing you need to note is that the change in color. So the color goes on becoming darker and darker, right? So it will be brownish, then it will become still more brown, then a little black, and then it becomes shiny black for anthracite. Next, volatile content goes on decreasing. Carbon content, this is important, carbon content goes on increasing. Higher the carbon content, more better is the fuel. So this will have very less carbon content, and the carbon content goes on increasing from left to right. And this is understood. Calorific value obviously will increase from left to right, and hardness also starts increasing. So this will be less harder, more harder, still more harder, and this will be the hardest among all the 4. Okay, so this is what you need to know. Moisture content goes on reducing, carbon content goes on increasing, hardness goes on increasing, and color changes from brown to black. Okay, so that is about solid fuels, about coal basically. After that, we will have to go into liquid fuels, right? So next what we have is liquid fuels. So as you all know, what are the different types of liquid fuels? Most commonly used: petrol, diesel, kerosene, and ethanol, etc. Okay, so liquid fuels, in that first one is petrol. It's also known as gasoline. The other name for petrol is gasoline. Okay, it is also known as gasoline and is the highest and most volatile liquid fuel, chiefly used as a motor fuel. isn't it? So petrol is the most common fuel. Most of the smaller vehicles will be having petrol as the fuel. The gasoline, how it is obtained? Petrol is obtained by distillation from crude oil or crude petroleum, and also comes from natural gas, which is compressed and condensed to produce this volatile liquid. So you all know how do we get all of these uh, fuels: petrol, diesel, kerosene, paraffin, etc. Right? These are all extracted from the crude oil, and when they are subjected for when they are sending to the refineries, and in the refineries they have been refined, and they undergo several processes like fractional distillation and all that. So they, depending upon their freezing point, they will melt at different, they will be converted into gas, and then at different temperature levels they will have their melting points. So they will settle in different layers. Right? So this is how we get the different fuels. We know the process, right? So it's basically a distillation process from the crude oil. So all the refineries, whatever is there, they generally do this work only. So most of the time in India, and in our city itself, in Mangalore itself, we have the very famous MRPL, Mangalore Refinery and Petrochemicals Limited. So which will take oil from the Gulf countries. So since we don't have a lot of oil reserves here, so oil will be imported, and from there the crude oil will be imported, and from there they start refining it. Okay, and they refine it and they produce fuel. Okay, so next one is kerosene. So it is also known as a paraffin oil, but it's most commonly called as kerosene. It's also known as paraffin oil and is obtained from raw petroleum by fractional distillation after gasoline is obtained. Kerosene is heavier than petrol and it is less volatile. Okay, so as you know, gasoline, petrol is obtained, kerosene is obtained after gasoline. Kerosene is heavier than petrol by density and it is less volatile. And you know, kerosene, it's again used as a domestic fuel in most of the cases, and also in some of the cases it's used in aircrafts also. Okay, so kerosene again is available in different forms. We have different types of kerosenes. One is colorless, another one is bluish in color, and the application of that in most of the cases, it's used for general domestic applications. Next is diesel. It's a liquid fuel that is obtained after petrol and kerosene during fractional distillation. Right? So I have already mentioned the process. It's called fractional distillation, and these are after this distillation process is complete, because of the variation in their melting points, these oils will settle at different points. So based on their density, which is heavy, will settle at certain point, and then they will be separated. So the liquid fuel is obtained after petrol and kerosene during the fractional distillation. It may be obtained by straight distillation, by cracking, or by blending with several oils. Next, and diesel, of course, you know the applications of diesel. Diesel is very widely used in all automobiles, which are generally heavy vehicles, right? So most of the heavy vehicles will be having diesel engines. Apart from that, diesel is also used for producing power in generators in most of the cases. Alright, so next one is alcohol. So artificial liquid fuel that is prepared by fermentation of vegetable matters. Okay, it is costlier than petrol and relatively has lower energy content. Example, methanol and ethanol. So alcohol is generally prepared from fermentation of vegetable matters. You know that. Costlier than petrol and relatively has lower energy content. Okay, next is some of the advantages of liquid fuels over solid fuels. So the first advantage is that they have a very high calorific value and a high combustion rate when compared with solid fuels. definitely if you by common sense also we understand that, because when we burn a solid fuel, there is a lot of ash content that is present. That means the complete burning of the fuel will not take place. The ash is nothing but a waste, isn't it? So more the amount of ash, that means more amount of fuel is not utilized. The energy is not utilized because they have been produced as a waste. So if you see liquid fuel and solid fuel, definitely liquid fuel will have a very high calorific value and it will have a very high combustion rate, because there is nothing in case of petrol or diesel that has to be wasted. Everything that is available in that will be utilized. Very less amount of wastage will be there. Second point, combustion can be regulated very easily. This is another point. We can control the flow of fuel that is going into any particular system, where it's very easy to regulate it. But that is not the case in the case of solid fuels. It's not that easy to regulate the combustion in case of solid fuels. This is the point that is related to the first point. As I told you, no residue or ash is produced after complete combustion. So whenever there is a liquid fuel that will be burning, will be absolutely no ash content and no residue left. The complete combustion of the fuel takes place. Whereas when we compare it with the solid fuel, whether it's coal or wood or generally any of the solid fuels, after the combustion that is taking place, we will still have ash in the form of waste. Okay, they are more eco-friendly when compared with solid fuels. So again, it's a similar point, but written it in a different way. More eco-friendly in the sense, most of the time, even the liquid fuels what is produced will have some harmful effects to the environment. But when compared with solid fuel, for example, in the case of coal, when the coal is being burnt, there is a lot of ash that is left. So disposal of ash becomes a major issue. Okay, it's a major problem for these power stations which are using coal, because there will be a lot of ash content that will be produced, and disposing these ash is a big task. And if that is led to the environment, it will create a lot of problems, these ash, because we are not talking about a little bit of ash content here. It's tons of ash that will be produced after burning of the coal. So that has to be properly disposed. So with respect to that, if you compare, liquid fuels are more eco-friendly. Ease of initiating ignition and also stopping of the combustion. That's again the same point. It's easy to initiate ignition in the case of liquid fuel, and also it's very easy to stop it from the combustion, whereas it becomes difficult in the case of solid fuel. The initiation also becomes difficult, and sudden stoppage also is not that easy to do. Okay, no corrosion during handling and combustion. So this is another advantage of liquid fuel over solid fuel. There is no corrosion taking place during its handling and combustion. There may be problem associated of these things in the case of solid fuel, and it is easy to handle, easy to transport. Okay, when compared with solid fuels. Okay, disadvantages. Cost is higher compared to that of solid fuel. Liquid fuel is expensive when compared with solid fuels. The amount of liquid fuel available is less in India than solid fuels. Okay, even though it's written like this, I wouldn't say this is a disadvantage. Amount of liquid fuel available is less in India than solid fuels. Yeah, of course, the availability of solid fuels are more, but availability of liquid fuels is less. Okay, that may not be a disadvantage in the case of liquid fuels. It is a disadvantage to our country, let's say, because we have less amount of liquid fuels. That is, we don't have much of crude oil. Third point, special containers are required for storage and transportation. This is an important point in the case of liquid fuels. So in the previous case it was said, even though it's easy to handle and transport, but storage is a problem. So while storing liquid fuels, you need to take extra precautions, and special containers have to be used. because if these are exposed to any of the environmental conditions for heat or any even sunlight, there is a chance that this may be flammable, and if a liquid fuel storage system catches fire, then that is over. Okay. Now, even if solid fuels, it's the same case, but it's very easily flammable. Any slight error in the case of storage or during transport, it's very, very dangerous. There is a sudden explosion can take place. So, storage is a problem with respect to liquid fuels. Okay, so last one is gaseous fuels. So gaseous fuels are classified into two groups majorly. One is called as natural gas, another one is called as producer gas or manufactured gas. So what do you mean by natural gas? The name itself says, which is obtained usually near the petroleum fluid beneath the earth's surface. So whatever is available from the earth's surface naturally is called as natural gas. Manufactured gas means these are actually produced from coal, waste materials, etc. So they are not naturally occurring, they are produced from some primary source. Okay. First one, natural gas. It is obtained from a specific location and it is found beneath the surface of the earth. The main constituents of this gas includes methane, that is the most common gas that is called as a natural gas. Methane, ethane, propane, together with a small amount of hydrogen sulfide, carbon dioxide and nitrogen. So generally we call methane itself as a natural gas. So it's poisonous again. So it's dangerous when extracting methane, but it's a one form of natural gas available. Okay. So next one is manufactured gas. So one gas what we call it as coal gas. So it is produced by destructive distillation of bituminous coal. The major constituents of this coal are carbon monoxide, methane, hydrogen, etc. So it's a gas that is generally produced from bituminous coal. Next, there's one more thing that's called as a coke gas or coke oven gas. So this is produced by destructive distillation of coal in an airtight coke oven, and hence it is called as coke oven gas. So since it is produced in an airtight coke oven, it's called as a coke oven gas. Its character and composition is similar to that of coal gas. Okay, so then you have something called as producer gas. So producer gas, it is prepared by partial oxidation of coal, coke or peat when they are burnt with insufficient quantity of air. It is produced in specially designed retorts and have very low calorific value. Okay. Next one more is called as a blast furnace gas. It is obtained from the smelting operation in which air is forced through the layers of coke and iron ore as pig iron is manufactured. The gas is produced as a byproduct and contains 20% of the carbon monoxide. So all these names are given because of the process that is being involved in that. So blast furnace gas is used called so because it is produced from the blast furnace where pig iron is being manufactured. So the smelting of obtained from the smelting operation in which air will be forced through the layers of coke where the iron ore is produced. So that gas whatever is formed is called as blast furnace gas. Next one is sewer gas. It is obtained from the sewage disposal plants in which the fermentation and decay occur. So as I mentioned, since it is obtained from the sewage disposal plants, it is called as sewer gas. Okay, so next one is called as calorific value of fuel, because we are coming into calorific value now, but if you observe, I was saying this same thing from the beginning, isn't it? I was talking about the calorific value of liquid fuels is more compared to that of solid fuel, and calorific value of anthracite is more compared to that of peat or lignite. So what do you mean by this? What do you actually mean by calorific value? any fuel is measured or graded with respect to this value called as the calorific value. Okay, so what do you mean by calorific value? So calorific value is defined as the energy liberated by complete combustion of a unit quantity of fuel and is measured as GCV, that is gross calorific value, or net calorific value. Okay, so what do you mean by calorific value? Calorific value is defined as the energy liberated by complete combustion of a unit quantity of fuel. Okay, so whatever fuel that may be a solid fuel or liquid fuel or gaseous fuel. So we take a unit quantity of that. Unit quantity means any standard quantity, and burn that fuel. So when you burn that fuel, how much energy is liberated or how much energy is produced, that value is called as calorific value. Okay, so we have to maintain a standard unit or a common weight. By weight or by mass, we take common point in all the fuels, and we burn that particular fuel. After the complete combustion, how much energy that produces, that becomes its calorific value. Okay, the difference is determined by the latent heat of condensation of vapor produced during the combustion process. Okay, the difference is determined by the latent heat of condensation of water vapor that is produced during the combustion process. That's how we measure it. Gross calorific value, or it is also called as higher calorific value, assumes that all vapor produced during the combustion process is fully condensed. Okay, there's a difference here between net calorific value and gross calorific value. Okay, so what do you mean by gross calorific value? In gross calorific value, it assumes that all the vapor that is produced during combustion process is fully condensed. Okay, what does net calorific value means? It assumes that all vapors produced during the combustion process which is not fully condensed. So we have to consider net calorific value in that case, because in gross calorific value it assumes that all the vapor that is produced during combustion is fully condensed. In net calorific value, we are not considering the entire vapors, that is it assumes that all the vapor that is produced during combustion process which is not fully condensed. Okay, so fuel should be compared based on the net calorific value, and the unit of calorific value, we usually measure that as kilojoules per kg. That means kilojoules of energy produced per kg, or kilocalories of energy produced per kg for solid and liquid fuel generally. Okay, we usually take it per kg basis. When we talk about calorific value, it will be generally kilojoules per kg or kilocalories per kg for solid fuel, or also for liquid fuel. But when we come to gaseous fuel, we take it as kilojoules per meter cube. Okay, we don't take it as kilojoules per kg, but we take kilojoules per meter cube of gaseous fuel. Okay, so next, combustion and combustion products. So what do you mean by combustion? Combustion is a chemical process or a chemical reaction that occurs between a fuel and an oxidizer, which is usually air, producing energy in the form of heat. That is called as combustion. So combustion is nothing but a chemical reaction, right, which is occurring between the fuel and oxygen, producing energy in the form of heat. So there is a chemical equation, we don't have to write all those things. What happens, we have a fuel, and the oxygen is in the presence of oxygen. When you burn it, it produces energy, and of course some amount of waste. The chemical reaction during combustion should be exothermic in nature. Okay, so what are the combustion products? So whenever a fuel is undergoing combustion, what are the byproducts that we generally get? So fuel contains compounds of carbon and hydrogen. So you know that majority of the fuels are containing hydrocarbons. They contain hydrogen and carbon. So when they are burnt in the presence of air, so when they're generally burned in the presence of oxygen and nitrogen, air may have will have nitrogen and oxygen in that, produces combustion products such as carbon dioxide, water, carbon monoxide, and carbon. The various combustion products. So some of the combustion products has environmental effects, as we know, right? Carbon monoxide will have a lot of problems. Carbon monoxide is a poisonous gas that is produced during the incomplete combustion, and sulfur dioxide has an unpleasant odor which causes respiratory and eye irritation. Okay, so we know that whenever we burn a particular fuel, it has certain byproducts that is formed which are actually not needed, but we cannot stop that. So oxides of sulfur and oxides of nitrogen and also carbon, so which are harmful for environment, but at the same time we get a tremendous amount of energy which can be utilized for better purpose. Okay. Next one is biofuels. So what do you mean by biofuels? So term biofuel refers to liquid or gaseous fuels for the transportation sector that are predominantly produced from biomass. Okay, so now the question comes, what is biomass? So I said biofuel refers to a liquid fuel or generally gaseous fuel. We have biogas most of the time, which are generally used for transportation sector and that are predominantly produced from biomass. Now what do you mean by biomass? So biofuel, you understand it is produced from biomass, but what is biomass? So biomass resource base for biofuel production, and it's a composed, and it consists of wide variety of forestry and agricultural resources, industrial processing residues, municipal solid and urban wood residues. So all these put together we call it as biomass. Okay, we have a slide in the picture which represents what is biomass, and I'm sure you know what is biomass. Okay, so we'll just go through that. Okay, so all these put together we call it as biomass, right? So it can be agriculture and crop wastes, okay, the husks of the agricultural products, or it can be the sewage, or it can be any municipal waste, it can be animal residues, it can be industrial residues, and it can be residues from plants. So all these put together we call them as biomass, and using these biomass we produce a fuel that we call as biofuel. Okay, it can be in the form of liquid, which generally we call it as biodiesels, and then it can be having in the gaseous form, which we call as biogas. Okay, types of biogas, or types of biofuels, sorry. So fuel pellets. So what do you mean by fuel pellets? It's generally made from wooden chips, sawdust, or agricultural wastes. So fuel pellets means, it's a when the wood is being worked on, the waste of that wood material, whatever is formed, those are called as wood chips. Okay, and then after the finishing operation of the wood takes place, whatever the powder of the wood that is that is called as sawdust, or any agricultural waste. So the fuel that is made from these things are called as fuel pellets. So they are used for the co-combustion in coal-fired power plants, but are not so popular because of the higher environmental pollution potential. Okay, so it doesn't have very large application, as you can see, but one of the application is mentioned here, that is, along with the coal they can also be added for as a co-combustion fuel in case of power plants which are running by coal. Second one is biodiesel, a form of biofuel that is produced from non-edible oil seeds. Okay, so this, I hope many of you know what are biodiesels. Biodiesels means you are extracting oil from different seeds that is available from the plants. So there are something called as honge oil, a different plant source from which you extract the seed, and then you get the oil out of it, and these oils can be used as a fuel. Generally, these biodiesels are not directly used in the engines. They are usually blended with diesel with various proportions. Okay, so most of the biodiesel whatever is available, we are not able to use it 100% in volume. So what generally it is being done is it has been mixed with the diesel. We cannot mix it with petrol. We have to mix it with diesel with varying proportions. That is 90% and 10% of biodiesel and 90% of diesel. So that oil is mixed with the diesel and then can be used, and then it is checked for its properties, and also what is the power produced from this, what are the environmental related issues with this. So they are being tested with different ratios. It can be ratios with respect to mass or with respect to volume, parts by volume. So how much parts it will be mixed. So it can be 90 10 80 20 85 15. So different ratios are being mixed of this oil, and then they have been used in engines. That is what is meant by biodiesel. So next we have something called as bioethanol. So bioethanol is usually produced from wheat, sugarcane or corn. So these are produced from corn, wheat or sugarcane, and they, as I told you, these can be blended with petrol. Okay, so they can be blended with petrol in order to reduce vehicle emissions. So biodiesel or the bio oil what we are getting are generally mixed with the diesel, and bioethanol, which is usually got from the fermentation of sugarcane, wheat or corn, these can be blended with petrol. Okay, and there can be used as a fuel. Okay, so some of the differences between biofuels and petroleum based fuels. So biofuels are produced from biological materials or biomass like plants and animal based source, whereas petroleum is formed from fossilized remains of dead plants and animals by exposure to heat and pressure in the earth's crust. Okay, so biofuel, as I told you, biofuel is usually produced from the biological materials or biomass like plants and animals. They are not buried under the surface, they are directly taken whatever is available. From that we are producing biofuel. But petroleum based or crude oil is actually formed from the fossilized remaining of the dead plants and animal, which are being buried under the earth's surface from millions of years, which are usually animal material which are buried under the surface of the earth under tremendous amount of heat and pressure for a long period of time, and then this crude oil is formed. Okay, so that is one major difference. Second one, biofuels can be considered as a renewable source of energy or renewable fuel, and petroleum based fuels or crude oil is definitely non-renewable. Okay, so there is no doubt on that. Petroleum based fuels are non-renewable in nature, they will be exhausted, whereas biofuels can be considered as a renewable source of energy because these are usually produced from biomass. Okay. Next difference between petroleum fuel and biofuel, this reduces greenhouse effects, reduces greenhouse gas emissions. Gas emission is comparatively higher and it is polluting the environment. This is a known matter for everyone. So whenever we are using petroleum based fuel, the pollution level is definitely higher, but when it is compared with biofuels, then it is having less amount of pollution when compared with petroleum based fuel. But you can see the major difference here now. The calorific value is around 30 to 37 megajoules per kg, but the calorific value of the petroleum based fuel is 42 to 48. megajoules per kg. What does that mean? That means petroleum based fuel has a much better quality, or the grade. If you are grading it, then petroleum based fuel is having a better grade compared to that of biofuels, because you can see the calorific value. This is how the fuel is being measured. The quality of the fuel or the grade of the fuel is being measured, whether it's of high grade or low grade fuel. So if the calorific value is high, it's called a high grade fuel. If the calorific value is low, it's called a low grade fuel. So if you definitely observe that petroleum based fuel is having higher calorific value, whereas biofuels are having lower calorific value. Okay. The last point, which is again related to pollution only, biodegradable, and it is very safer, whereas petroleum based fuel, definitely it is not safe to use, because they will have certain chemicals that is coming out of that, and it will be harmful for environment. Okay, so with that we have finished a small portion of the first module, that is starting from what is energy. Then we studied the different forms of that energy. What do you mean by renewable source of energy? What do you mean by non-renewable source of energy? Then we have finished with the different forms of fuel, that is we have solid fuels, then liquid fuels, and then gaseous fuels, right? We have studied what are solid fuels, where we have coal, wood and coal, and different forms of coal, that is peat, lignite, bituminous, anthracite, and also the artificially produced form of coals. And then we came into the liquid fuels, where we studied about petrol, diesel, kerosene, and other things. Then gaseous fuels. Okay, after that we also seen what do you mean by combustion, what are the combustion products, what do you mean by calorific value, what do you mean by higher calorific value and low net calorific value. And then we came to what do you mean by biofuels. So what is biofuels, how is it formed, and then finally the difference between biofuels and petroleum fuels. Okay, so we have finished a small portion of energy here, so we will stop at this point, and then we'll continue in the next class with the other non-conventional source of energy. We have not yet touched any of the non-conventional source of energy. So in the next class onwards, we will start with non-conventional energy sources like solar, wind, hydel, and other things. Okay, so once we finish that, we will complete energy part of it. Then we will go for thermodynamics, and after that we will go for formation of steam. Okay, so we will stop here. Thank you.